Well, I do know in Japan that like I think one big thing was obviously things that are in America aren't that important. I guess two things about that I can understand from Japan really from current events. Things in America aren't super important. There was actually an article in CNN, which this is very true. There's a big pop group in Japan. It's basically this gigantic kind of branded pop group that they basically have monopolized music in Japan, and and it's 48 girls from four different regions. Actually, it's 48 girls in different regions, and the big one is in Tokyo. And their election to see which one is the prettiest outweighed everything that happened in Japan, in the U.S. Like, it was way more popular than Romney and Obama in the election. It's kind of weird because there just isn't, in Japan, there isn't, I guess everyone probably knows this, there isn't a whole lot of crime and, a whole lot of violence and a whole lot of interesting, not interesting, but a whole lot of, graphic violence and, bad kind of stuff happening in Japan because it has a very low crime rate. So they kind of it's more resorting to media, or entertainment industry, I think, from what I've seen. The only big stories I think that in Japan that are important are probably as government, because they keep switching prime ministers, and then obviously the tsunami, which they don't, sometimes they're not figuring this as a way too big of a deal. Actually, when I was over there, when I was talking to people who were going back and who were already there during the tsunami last year, they were kind of like, oh, it's not, it's like, we got it. And in the news stories, like, my favorite thing to hear was Anderson Cooper was interviewing somebody about the tsunami, and they're like, do you think Japan can survive the tsunami? And I said to myself, and I think I said in front of a bunch of people, I was like, well, the Japanese did invent the word tsunami, so I think they should be prepared for the tsunami. So it was kind of like a really, it wasn't, they're kind of like, we've got this. I think it was just, they have a tendency to make, we got this, we don't really need a whole lot of outside help, but, we're sitting there like, come on, let us help. So, but, it's still a really big deal, obviously. There's still a lot of people without homes and stuff, and a lot of stuff that's been there since, medieval times in Japan is gone. And that's still kind of, they're trying to get over that.
Sometimes what I'm hearing is, sometimes American journalists exaggerate, make things bigger than maybe they really are, or we think that we're in the center of the world and everybody should be focused on what we're concerned about, right?
That's correct. Like, I guess that's correct. Like, they didn't make, actually earthquakes are pretty regular deal over there. Like, my friend said they had one maybe either once or twice every month, and it may have been just kind of small, but it's not that big of a deal. There's not any volcanoes, at least on the East Coast, which is where all the population is, but on the other side nearest China and stuff, and in the north. So there isn't a whole lot of that, but earthquakes are a pretty regular deal. So, until it kind of got bigger than it was, they kind of like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. But, I think it's something in their personality that helped them kind of, my mom called me the day after and was like, I can't believe, people in Japan aren't like out looting or rioting or anything. And I was like, well, they have a big tendency to deal with kind of what they have. And, I don't know, I think one of the regulations especially in some of the parts of Tokyo is they would shut the power off for a couple hours a day, and so they wouldn't have any internet or anything. And, in that, actually I can't imagine, like, crap, I don't have internet for, 5 hours. So, so it's kind of dealing with what they have and learning to deal with it, and there wasn't a whole lot of complaint about it. So they, I think that's kind of cool, like, maybe chivalrous, I guess is the word.
You guys want to add anything about the news and how people react to the news here?
Well, I think one of the things that I have picked up here in America is that the freedom of speech have given people too much power to be very disrespectful to the people in authority, which is, freedom of speech is good, but when you start disrespecting people in authority, it dismisses the fact of the point of it. You know, in Cameroon, we don't have freedom of speech, that we know. So even if you vote or you don't vote, it doesn't matter whether you vote or not, the president is going to end up winning. You know, but this past election almost brought back that memory to me when I was living in Africa, because like the way they were talking about the polls, how, you know, trying to stop people from voting, denying their right, then, you know, and one of the reasons that I decided to become an American was because of the freedom to do, you know, I can cast my ballot without anybody telling me what and what not to do, you know. And when it started happening during this election, I was like, you know, is America turning into something, or are we losing something? You know, so.
You know, you just mentioned something that I didn't pick up on initially, and that is that you plan to stay here. You're an American now. You're not planning to go back to Cameroon.
Yeah, I'm an American now. I cast my first election and I was happy about it. No, nobody told me what to do. I just went in there and put it to the person that I wanted, you know, and it felt good, because back in Cameroon, it doesn't matter if you vote for whoever you want, the person that has been pre-planned, because before the ballot box go to the polling station, it's already halfway filled, so your vote doesn't count. So I was happy to know that my vote counted, you know. And I voted for my senators, my representative, and, you know, it meant something to me.
You're
So
still
I was happy.
in Texas, right? So you voted in Texas?
I voted in Alabama.
Now?
I live now in Alabama.
Okay. Lulu, your thoughts?
I thought so. Recently, still about the elections. Our countries have the elections, but there's the people are not very pay attention to the elections, because it's kind of similar to Africa, where she from. The president already been, before we elect, we already know who's going to be the president. So this year is my first time to see the election here, and at that time I was in the mall, but nobody was there. I asked that people are all watching. I asked the people working. They said the people are all watching the final election or the poll result. But in our country, currently they are kind of elect the new president, but the result is already known by all the people in China.
So very different situation.
Very different situation. In her case, even though your vote is not count, I don't have a vote. my case is even worse. I don't have a vote. We only have several representatives to have the right to vote. Like every 10,000 people, we have one vote. That one people can't vote. So we don't have any vote.
Okay, we're going to thank you very much. Appreciate your time. I think Dr. Hawk is going to